Anybody? I'm sorry, I'm here. Conversion rate is the definite best KPI there.
Right.
And you're going to want to, I guess, get a little more granular too, and look at time on site. You want to look at that bounce rate. You want to just see how your pages are going to be performing. Anybody else have any KPIs that they use?
One of the things that we look at is the flow as to from when they land on your page, how many of them from how much pages you have there, and so on. What was that?
The answer was the user flow, and once somebody comes onto the site, when they get to the page, just following their track and seeing if they're on the right track, and I'm going to extrapolate a little bit, but just seeing if there's kind of finding ways to optimize that flow.
Right. Is there a pattern that makes sense and they do more than others do?
In the back?
SEO and keywords.
SEO and keywords. What keywords are working out for you? What keywords are not working out for you? And then you can build your content around those keywords just to make sure that the right people are coming to your sites, the right prospects. Anybody else?
It goes along with the flow, but we've been checking after we visited or recruited at a conference to see if the peak or not.
No, that's great because you can definitely find trends and is that the right conference for you? Another thing, another KPI to look at are your sources of traffic. We'll get a little bit deeper into that in a few slides from now. But which sources are performing great? Is Facebook performing great? Is a vendor performing well? Is another vendor performing poorly? It'll help you make your business decisions on where you should be spending your time, your energy, and your money.
Right. Right. I find a lot of schools, does everybody have blogs on their sites? I find a lot of schools, make sure that you know what the keywords are, right, that are bringing people to your blogs and those kinds of things. Really helpful for SEO. As Josh said, lots of things there that you can do. If you're using outside sources, which ones are performing, which ones aren't. I mean, just so many things you can measure. So.
And it's better to have more of this data than less of this data, so
Right.
tracking everything becomes critical.
Right.
So now there's targets.
Good stuff so far.
How do you rate success? I mean, what conversion rate do you want to see on your site? What conversion rate do you want to see from different sources? Any other targets that people use in their analytics?
Are you measuring yourself against competitive schools? Are you measuring yourself against yourself, right, versus last year, those kinds of things?
I mean, there's another opportunity, like Jay said, just to measure yourself against yourself. You may have subdomains like MBA, psychology. How are you doing in comparison to your own brand in different verticals?
And then segments. What visitor attributes will provide meaningful insights? To your point earlier, what are they doing on your site? What's that magical path that you know for enrollment? Any other insights or attributes that you can think of?
No, but I think this is always a great place to start. I mean, you take a blank sheet of paper, you number it, and then you just start filling in the blanks and just do a brain dump. And then you're going to have a whole bunch of information, and you take that information, you use it as your framework to go back to Google Analytics and start setting goals.
Right. Right. So this is a really hopefully useful framework to kind of go back and take a look, answer those questions, and you can begin to kind of have that dialogue with the key decision makers in your group, to kind of measure these things and make sure that you're doing, you're going through them. And then again, it gets back to this, right? It's a never-ending cycle. You're measuring, you're analyzing, and you're changing based on what you find out. So, numbers really speak for themselves, right? Like, I have 2,000 page views, 70% return visitors, and an 80% bounce rate.
Can be interpreted a million different ways. So you ask yourself, how you doing?
Right. What do you measure yourself against, right? Again, is that bounce rate good or bad? Are they finding what they want and then bouncing? Are they frustrated and then moving off and going somewhere else? So again, that's really important that you really have to dive in because numbers really rarely do speak for themselves. And one of the challenges we find in higher education and at Converge Consulting, we're trying to kind of get a user group together. We find a lot of people ask, well, how am I doing against the 5 schools that I want to measure myself against? And unless they share that data with me, you don't know. So one of the things we like to do in this industry is kind of start a user group so you can really kind of measure that. And go to conferences like this, it'd be a great session to say, you know, these 5 people kind of talk about what they're doing. So really all you have now is you're measuring yourself against yourself, seasonality, those kinds of things. You know, put that stake in the ground, start that benchmark. You know, we did this last September, so this is what we should be doing this September. So this kind of wraps up the overview, and then we're going to, you know, start getting some deep dives here. But again, just kind of recap. So, you know, primary web analytics tasks. Number 1, measure quantitatively and qualitatively. 2, continuously improving your website. Know what you want to do, know what your goals are, continuous improvement. And align your measurement strategy with your overall organizational strategy. That's key, right? That's what is your website, you know, what do you want people to do, what does it stand for? Anything else that people are using analytics for or that we haven't covered that you thought, well, you know what, this is something that works for us? Yeah.
We track all of our online advertising, see whether it's effective or not. And I mean, we've gone through a whole bunch of different tracks, and based on the performance, we've either kept it or got rid of it.
Yeah, and that's key to, I mean, how you're going to spend your budget and monitoring your return on investment, because everything that you're doing, whether it's just time, whether it's actually spending money for clicks, I mean, there's an ROI involved there, so you want to calculate that return on investment and make the best decisions you can. And you can do that using Google Analytics to just monitor each of those channels. So what we're seeing a lot of schools do is look at their vendors, and they're cutting down the number of vendors that they're using. They're just going with those high-quality vendors that they can prove the ROI on, and then taking their additional funding and using it on content, on SEO strategies, just so they're organically appearing higher in the search ranks than their competitors. Because I mean, it's very competitive out there, and you're going to be right next to the school that you look at and you want to make your face at. So keep that in mind.
And that is important, that SEO and knowing what keywords work, that organic traffic, as you know, is the best traffic you're ever going to get. So really to know what drives that, you can make an impact right away, knowing what the plan is. Anybody else using analytics or anything else yet?
We're getting ready to A/B test our admission planning
Right.
in the design stage.
Right. Absolutely. You know what design works, what design doesn't work. Yeah.
Use it for our social media, for Twitter.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I mean, that helps you with that return on investment, because you're putting time investment into that social media, and it's Twitter working better for you, it's Pinterest working better for you, it's Facebook working better, and then you just dedicate more time to that channel.
We actually try to do that as well, so it's like it's very precious about
Right.
Jay, you want to repeat that?
So using it for your email campaign, right? So going beyond the click-through rate, right? And seeing where they're going, what they're doing. Yeah. You know, user behavior. I mean, it's really big. Social media is great. Absolutely.
So somebody brought up a point that I just want to touch on for a moment, and that's the A/B testing. How many of you have experience with A/B testing? By show of hands. Critical. We purchased a tool recently for gradschools.com, which allowed us to do a lot of A/B testing. And we saw with just minor tweaks to colors, to wording, to just layout, we were able to increase conversion on the site by 10, 20, even 30% at times. And it was just by testing the base against something new and then moving in that direction. So again, that simple chart that Jay was talking about with you measure and then make changes and then monitor it, that's what you have to do on a consistent basis, and you're going to find these nuggets of ROI everywhere.
Right. Who has a dashboard? More than that.
Customized dashboards?
We'll get into that. Customized dashboards. Key to exactly for that, for that frantic Monday morning, I need a Google Analytics report, right? Dashboard's there. Know what to measure. Back to your coffee. So this is where we're really going to kind of start getting into the nitty-gritty and talk through some scenarios and some deep dives here.
So our read to make data-driven decisions. So that this is what Google Analytics does, and this is why we have to use it. So, I mean, your approach should be no different than my approach on grassroot.com when I'm looking at Google Analytics. And I mean, the goals are to set up the end-to-end measurements and use that A/B testing and monitor my email deployments and make sure that I know exactly what's going on because the knowledge is going to be the power. Again, you go back through that chart that we spoke about and ask yourself what insights will allow me to take actionable steps to increase enrollments, because that's the end game here. And minor tweaks can increase that conversion rate 5, 10, 15, 20%.
Right. User acquisition behavior, knowing exactly what people are doing, where they're going.
So let's take it back a step and make sure that we have the right things in place. So do we have the latest Google Analytics code on our pages? Because there could be old code out there that's not doing what we need it to do, and we could be looking at false positives, numbers that aren't working out the right way. One question I have to ask, which is a little more technical, is are we using the asynchronous code rather than the synchronous code? Because what's going to happen is your pages are going to load faster, it's going to be a better user experience for everybody, and you're going to have more flexibility to do what you need to do. Does anybody know if they're using that asynchronous code? Great question to ask when you get back to the office.
We asked that.
Whoever manages your Google Analytics account, and they'll know. And you can actually look on Google Analytics, their help page, and see what that asynchronous code looks like and compare it to what's on all of your pages.
Right.
Am I addressing the subdomain tracking appropriately? I mean, it could be mba.yourschool.edu, could be psychology.yourschool.edu, and you want to make sure that you're monitoring each of those subdomain categories so that you're getting all the analytics that you can get. So that's another important question to ask. Is Google Analytics on every page of my